All right, this is Group 8, Section 6. Our topic is, should castration and dehorning be done on food animals? And this is the against side. All right, my name is Mia Goudy, and we'll start off with the history and background. So traditionally, castration started out as a means for population control, but now it is often used for increased profits without regards to the negative impacts on the animal. Negative impacts would include a condition called belly nuts, which occurs after the animal was improperly castrated after birth. It is more difficult to castrate the animal when it is just born, so the rancher or farmer should wait until the animal is a little older and more developed to avoid emotional and physical distress from the animal. With society becoming more and more aware of the emotional and physical repercussions of inhumane treatments done to animals, there have been a lot of organizations and laws that have been established to speak out for the animals' rights. So we have the SPCA, which is the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, the AVMA, which is the American Veterinary Medical Association, PETA, which is People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, the Animal Welfare Act, which updates every few years and altered for the favor of the animals. And then you have the USDA guidelines, which indicates how animals should be treated and the mercy that is applied to food animals. All right, moving on, we have the dehorning and disbedding is actually not currently regulated in the US, but in other countries such as Sweden and Australia, also New Zealand, have mandates put in place to dehorn the calf as young as possible to avoid pain. Any process of dehorning will cause pain to the animal, even if they're given anesthesia. PETA actually published an article saying that the dairy industry in the US only gives proper care and medication to about 10% of the bulls. An alternative to dehorning would be to breed the bulls so that they have smaller and smaller horns over the years until they no longer are a harm to the herd or to other animals.
Hello, my name is Alejandra Childress, and I'm going to be talking about the ethics of castration and dehorning on the against side. And the tissue damage due to disbedding and dehorning results to damaged cells, inflammatory cells, and nerve fibers. One study shows that the hot iron disbedding calves that have not been given any anesthetic show more struggling during disbedding and more post-operative indicators of pain after disbedding than scoop and caustic paste in disbedding calves. The cortisol concentrations in the blood were higher in scoop disbedding calves than in hot iron or caustic paste disbedding calves up to 6 hours post disbedding. When using caustic paste for disbedding, it was significantly higher in cortisol concentrations in calves than the hot iron disbedded calves at 1 hour post disbedding. Scoop disbedding is almost as equally as painful procedure. However, it is very quick to the animal and the animal does not have to struggle to get away. In addition of ketamine to a more traditional chemical restraint formulas can increase patient cooperation and has been shown to lower stress response to both dehorning and castration in calves. However, when combined with local anesthesia, the cortisol response was virtually abolished throughout the 9-hour post-operative observation period. Continuing about ethics, to explain what the ideal circumstance or ethics for an animal, many use the 5 freedoms: freedom of hunger and water, freedom of discomfort, freedom of pain, injury, and disease, freedom to express normal behavior, and freedom from fear and distress. In this instance, let's look at pigs. All male and female were castrated to prevent fornication with wild boars. Then it was mainly used to prevent boar taint. Boar taint is when a mature male is not castrated and an aggressive odor appears when preparing it. A major justification to castration was the boar taint. So 3 different methods of castration were brought up and talked about in Europe, and this chart explains the pros and cons of each method. In this source, they concluded that humans should take the fall financially because they can handle it while animals do not have a choice, therefore it should be done humanely. And in the chart, there's 3 different methods: the surgical castration with anesthesia or analgesia, which is the most expensive. Then there's raising entire males, which is a medium expense, and the cheapest one is immunization against GnRH. And as you can see, there are 2 on the cons, there are 2 different colors, and the red is the disadvantages for the animals, and the greens are the advantages for the humans.
Hello, my name is Harrison Macagno. Talking about the cultural aspect. Ever since the culture of dehorning and castration animals started, there has been those who disagreed. Examples of these people would be animal rights activists, who have been pushing for more regulations. People who don't like dehorning and castration before the internet had a hard time voicing it. Whenever they did get the chance, some main points are how it hurts and is very painful to the animal. Culturally, many animal rights activists pump out propaganda like the picture in the slide to get people to feel bad for the animal. Yeah.
All right, so my name is Bridgette Williams, and I'll be covering the sociological side of the against part. Basically, within the sociological side of castration and dehorning animals, a lot of people have said that it is very wrong and harmful towards the animal. The main group being animal rights activists, they posed a question of, if you were going to castrate your own pet, would you do it without painkillers or with painkillers? And they ask this in the sense that they want to see what you want to do with animals, livestock, because it can harm the animal no matter what happens. So they want to be sure that everything is being safe for the animal.
Hello, my name is Garcia, and I will be talking about current events related to the topic of dehorning and castration on against. So in Germany, the castration of piglets has been rejected by PETA, stating that the piglets shouldn't be castrated with or without anesthesia because once they are born, their scrotum is cut open and their spermatic cords are severed or cut off, and they usually do this without anesthesia. And German law states that animals cannot be harmed without reasonable explanation, and the castration of piglets is a clear violation. In the picture, I have Christian Arlett, who is a lawyer with PETA in Germany, filing complaint on behalf of German male piglets, and the piglets are their own plaintiffs, so they are fighting for their rights because they are exploited for their flesh. Each year, 20 million male piglets are castrated within their first few days of life. And these castrations are regulated, but according to PETA, they are not regulated enough. And the heinous act was outlawed in 2013, but farmers are given a transitional period and recently extended another 2 years without information released to PETA, so it is extended without consent of the animals. And in the picture below, I have the piglets on the pig farm in relation to the court case. Also, in continuation, the animals have to suffer the painful procedure, resulting in tissue damage, damaged cells, and damaged nerve fibers. There is also damage to their behavioral issues and damage to the animal's trauma because they are exploited for human consumption without their consent, because animals cannot fight for themselves. And there is a group called Animal Liberation that fight for the freedom of all animals and are considered a terrorist group. They also vandalize and cause damage to sites where food animals are kept, and this causes farmers a fortune, lots of money to repair those damages. And PETA and the Humane Society of the United States both reject castration and dehorning of food animals. And because of this, they use propaganda to convince consumers that food animals should be liberated and people should go vegan. Veganism is also popular and trendy within the millennials nowadays. So according to them, this will cause the consumption of food animals to cease and animals will be liberated. Also demonstrated on this slide are pictures used as propaganda and to further emphasize the ideas implemented by PETA and the Humane Society.
Hello, my name is Samuel Reyes, and I'm going to be doing the informed opinion on castration and dehorning of food animals. In the video, you can see how the calves are in pain. They are not on any painkillers or anesthesia. Many of the calves that are castrated can suffer from inflammation, infection, and chronic pain. The public opinion towards castration is that they don't agree with the methods and procedures used to castrate the animals. They believe that it induces stress and pain to the animal, which can persist for days or weeks. In an article by First Post, they state that we humans have found various ways in which to be cruel to animals. You just need to look around in the cities to see overloaded bullock carts, abandoned cattle roaming the streets, and eating gummed paper to stay alive. But in terms of cruelty, nothing surpasses the practice of castration, which deprives the animal of its very right to breed and procreate. There are many disadvantages that go against the castration of food animal. In an article by Xenia Stavronites, published on Rainbow Ranch Farms, they stated that livestock castration can actually alter the natural course of hormonal balance, depending on which method is being used. There may also be a maggot infestation, pain, atrophy, infections, blood loss, and even death. Now moving on to dehorning. According to PETA, which is People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, states in one of their articles, animals often struggle violently and are therefore held still, manually, or in a head bale during the painful dehorning process, which is frequently performed without painkillers and results in severe pain that lasts for hours and can become chronic. In the picture on the left, you can see the horn being taken off the cattle. You can see how it's bleeding out, and if it goes untreated, it can lead to infections. Dehorning of food animals can cause, according to the Beef Cattle Research Council, causes more pain, greater injury, longer recovery time, and potential risk of infections. Food animals shouldn't have to be dehorned without painkillers or anesthesia because it causes extreme pain and can take a long time for them to recover. According to the HuffPost, most meat eaters want animals to be treated as humanely as possible, and many of them take part in efforts to stop animal abuse just as vegetarians do. Our group agrees to the use of food animals, but with the use of painkillers, anesthesia, and the proper regulations. Temple Grandin is a great example of someone who set forth a movement of how the industry should treat animals and that they should be treated humanely.